The alarm rang through the Velkorian command station like a scream. Red lights flashed across every corridor and every deck. Officers of a dozen different species stopped what they were doing and looked up at the ceiling as if the sound came from the heavens themselves. In the 40 years since the station was built, that particular alarm had only sounded twice before. Both times, it had meant the same thing. Humans were coming. High Commander Zekthar stood at the center of the command deck with his 4 arms clasped behind his back. His gray skin had turned pale, and the scales along his neck had risen in the ancient display of fear that his species had never evolved past. He stared at the main view screen where a single red dot moved across the star map at a speed that should have been impossible. "Confirm the signature," he said. His voice was calm, but everyone on the deck heard the tremor beneath it. The sensor officer, a young Thalaxian named Vethra, ran the scan 3 more times before she answered. "Confirmed, High Commander. The vessel's energy signature matches human military specifications. It is a warship of the Defender class. Current speed is 4 times our maximum capability. At present course, it will reach our position in approximately 6 hours. 6 hours." Zekthar closed his eyes and remembered the war. He had been young then, barely old enough to serve on a patrol ship. The Coalition had detected the human homeworld and decided that such a primitive species would make excellent servants. They had sent a fleet of 100 ships to claim Earth. 12 ships returned. Zekthar had been on one of them, and he still woke up screaming some nights. "Begin evacuation procedures," he ordered. "All civilian vessels are to leave the station immediately. Military personnel will remain on standby. But no one is to engage the human ship without my direct order." Vethra turned from her console with confusion in her large black eyes. "High Commander, forgive me, but it is only one ship. We have a garrison of 15 vessels here. Surely we can defend ourselves if they attack." Zekthar walked slowly toward her station. The other officers on the deck fell silent and watched. When he reached Vethra, he placed one of his hands on her shoulder in what might have been a fatherly gesture. "You were born after the war," he said quietly. "You have read the reports and seen the recordings, but you do not understand. No one who was not there can truly understand. That one ship could destroy this entire station and every vessel we have before we could land a single hit. And it would not even be a difficult fight for them." Vethra wanted to argue. She had trained her whole life for combat, and she believed in the strength of the Coalition. But something in the old commander's eyes stopped her. It was not just fear she saw there. It was the look of someone who had seen death itself and knew exactly what it looked like. Meanwhile, 6 hours away by human standards, and much farther by Coalition measurements, the warship, relentless, cut through space like a blade through water. It was not the largest ship in the human fleet, and it was not the most heavily armed, but it was fast, and it was deadly, and every soul on board knew their purpose. Captain Daniel Carter sat in his command chair and read the mission briefing for the 10th time. 3 weeks ago, the colony ship Horizon had departed Earth with 2,000 civilians bound for a new settlement in the Outer Territories. The ship had sent regular updates for the first 2 weeks. Then nothing. Search parties had found no debris and no distress signals. The Horizon had simply vanished. "Captain, we are approaching the last known coordinates of the Horizon." The voice belonged to Lieutenant Commander Katie Morgan, the ship's executive officer. She stood at the tactical station with her blonde hair pulled back in a regulation braid and her blue eyes fixed on her console. Carter looked up from his briefing. "Any signals? Debris? Anything at all?" "Negative, sir. Space is clean for 1,000,000 kilometers in every direction. Whatever happened to the Horizon, it did not happen here." Carter stood and walked to the main view screen. The stars stared back at him, cold and silent, and keeping their secrets. 2,000 people, men, women, and children who had left everything behind to start new lives on a distant world. They deserved answers. Their families deserved answers. "Dr. Brooks," Carter said, addressing his chief science officer, "expand the sensor range. Look for anything unusual. Energy signatures, gravitational anomalies, anything that might tell us where they went." Dr. Nathan Brooks was a thin man with gray hair and glasses that he did not actually need but wore anyway because he liked how they looked. He had served in the fleet for 30 years and had seen things that would make younger officers faint, but he had never lost a colony ship before, and the mystery bothered him more than he wanted to admit. "Scanning now, Captain," he said. His fingers moved across his console with practiced speed. "Wait. I am picking up something. It is faint, but there is a residual energy pattern approximately 2 light-years from here. The signature is consistent with Coalition plasma weapons." The bridge fell silent. Every officer knew what that meant. The Coalition and humanity had been at peace for decades, but it was the kind of peace that existed because both sides were too afraid to break it. If the Coalition had attacked a civilian ship, that peace was over. Captain Carter turned to his communications officer, a young woman named Samantha Price, who had graduated top of her class at the academy. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Inform them of our findings and tell them we are investigating. Then set a course for those coordinates. Maximum speed." "Aye, Captain," Price replied. As the Relentless changed course and accelerated, Carter returned to his chair. He looked around at his crew. These were good people, trained professionals who had volunteered to serve on the frontier where danger was always close. They trusted him to lead them, and he would not let them down. "All hands," he said, his voice carried through the ship by the internal communication system. "This is the captain. We have detected evidence that the colony ship Horizon may have been attacked by Coalition forces. We are moving to investigate. I want everyone at their stations and ready for anything." Carter, out. In the crew quarters, 200 men and women heard the message and felt their hearts beat a little faster. They did not know what they would find when they reached those coordinates, but they knew one thing for certain. If someone had hurt those colonists, there would be consequences. Humanity did not abandon its own, and humanity did not forgive those who harmed the innocent. 6 hours away, High Commander Zekthar watched the red dot on his screen grow closer and prayed to gods he had not believed in for decades. The humans were coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The Relentless dropped out of faster-than-light travel near an asteroid field that stretched across space like a river of broken stones. Captain Daniel Carter stood at the front of the bridge and stared at the view screen. Something terrible had happened here. He could feel it in his bones before the sensors confirmed what his instincts already knew. "Captain, I am detecting debris consistent with a large vessel," Dr. Nathan Brooks reported from his station. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly as he read the data. "Hull fragments, personal effects, and—" "I am sorry, sir. Human remains." The bridge went quiet. Every officer stopped what they were doing and looked at the screen. Somewhere out there, in the cold darkness of space, pieces of the Horizon floated among the asteroids. 2,000 people had been on that ship. Families who had dreamed of a better life. Children who had never known war. All of them were gone now, scattered across the void like leaves in a storm. Lieutenant Commander Katie Morgan broke the silence. "Sir, I am analyzing the debris pattern. The damage is consistent with military-grade plasma weapons. Coalition signatures. The attack came from multiple angles, which suggests at least 3 vessels. And, Captain, the targeting pattern indicates they hit the family quarters first." Carter's jaw tightened. He had served in the fleet for 20 years, and had seen combat many times. He had lost friends and comrades, and had made peace with the violence that came with protecting humanity. But this was different. This was not a battle. This was murder. Whoever had done this had deliberately targeted civilians, deliberately targeted children. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies. I want anyone in this sector to hear me." Samantha Price worked her console and nodded. "Channel open, Captain." Carter spoke clearly and slowly, so that there would be no misunderstanding. "This is Captain Daniel Carter, of the human warship Relentless. We have discovered evidence of an attack on a civilian vessel in this area. Any ships with information about this incident are ordered to respond immediately. This is not a request." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the view screen flickered, and three massive shapes emerged from behind a nearby moon. Coalition cruisers, each one twice the size of the Relentless, their hulls bristling with weapons. They moved into an attack formation with practiced precision. The lead ship opened a communication channel, and an alien face appeared on screen. It belonged to a Thalaxian commander named Vornash. His skin was dark, purple, and his eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a snake. When he smiled, he revealed rows of small, sharp teeth. "Human vessel," Vornash said with contempt dripping from every word. "You are trespassing in Coalition space. The ship you seek was carrying illegal weapons and was destroyed according to our laws. You will leave this sector immediately, or you will share its fate." Carter did not blink. He did not raise his voice. He simply looked at the alien commander with eyes that had seen too much death to be frightened by threats. "I have evidence that says otherwise," Carter replied. "I have debris patterns showing your ship's targeted civilian areas. I have human remains floating in space because your people decided that families were a threat. You have one chance, Commander, one chance to tell me the truth about what happened here." Vornash laughed. It was an ugly sound, wet and cruel. "You dare threaten me? Look at your situation, human. You are one small ship against 3 cruisers. My weapons could tear you apart in seconds. Your people may have won battles in the past, but that was long ago. Times have changed. The Coalition has grown stronger while you grew soft and peaceful." Behind Carter, Weapons Officer Derek Grant ran a tactical analysis. He was a big man with short brown hair and hands that could crush metal, but moved across his console with surprising gentleness. When he finished his calculations, he leaned toward Katie Morgan and whispered his findings. "They outgun us 6-1, he said quietly. "Their shields are military grade. Their weapons are fully charged. On paper, we cannot win this fight." Morgan looked at him with a slight smile. "Good thing we do not fight on paper." At his station, Chief Engineer Marcus Webb monitored the ship's systems with the calm focus of a man who had built machines his entire life. The Relentless was more than just metal and wires to him. It was his masterpiece, his child, and he knew every bolt and circuit like he knew his own heartbeat. He had spent years improving the engines, strengthening the shields, and fine-tuning the weapons. If the captain ordered a fight, the ship would be ready. Captain Carter studied Vornash's face on the screen. The alien was confident, arrogant even. He believed that numbers would decide this battle, that 3 ships would always defeat 1. He did not understand humans. He did not understand that humans had crawled out of caves and conquered a planet that tried to kill them every day. He did not understand that humans had fought each other for thousands of years before reaching the stars, and had learned lessons in warfare that the Coalition could not imagine. "Commander Vornash," Carter said slowly, "I am going to give you a chance that you did not give those colonists. Stand down your weapons, surrender your ships, and you will face justice in a court of law. Refuse, and I will show you why your ancestors were right to fear us." Vornash's smile faded. For just a moment, something flickered in those yellow eyes, doubt perhaps, or the ancient instinct that all predators share when they realize they might be facing something more dangerous than themselves, but his pride was stronger than his fear. "You are insane," he spat. "All ships, target the human vessel, fire at will." The channel closed, and the 3 cruisers began to move. Their weapons glowed with charged plasma, and their targeting systems locked onto the Relentless with deadly precision. On the bridge of the human ship, there was no panic. No fear. Just the quiet focus of professionals who knew exactly what they were capable of. "All hands to battle stations," Carter ordered. His voice was calm, almost casual, like he was ordering lunch instead of preparing for combat. "Derek, charge all weapons. Marcus, give me everything the engines have. Katie, you have tactical command. Let us show these people why the galaxy learned to run when they see us coming." The crew responded with practiced efficiency. Shields powered up, weapons hummed with barely contained energy, and the engines roared like a beast waking from slumber. The first plasma bolt streaked through space toward the Relentless. It was fast, faster than most ships could dodge. But the Relentless was not most ships. The battle for justice had begun. The plasma bolt screamed toward the Relentless, at a speed that would have destroyed any other ship. But before Vornash could celebrate his victory, the human warship moved. It did not simply dodge. It danced. The Relentless twisted on its axis and accelerated at the same time, a maneuver that Coalition tactical databases classified as impossible because it should have torn any vessel apart from the inside. "Miss," Vethra whispered at her station on the distant command station, where she watched the battle through long-range sensors. How did they miss? High Commander Zekthar did not answer. He simply watched with ancient eyes that had seen this before. The humans were just getting started. On the bridge of the Relentless, Dr. Nathan Brooks suddenly shouted with excitement. "Captain! Wait! I am detecting life signs on one of the larger asteroids below us. Human life signs. They are faint, but there are survivors down there." Captain Carter's heart jumped in his chest. Survivors. After everything they had seen. After all the death and destruction. Someone had lived. He made his decision in an instant. "Derek, continue evasive maneuvers, but do not return fire yet. Samantha, contact Marine Sergeant Kevin Cole. Tell him to prepare a rescue team immediately. We are going to get our people." The ship rocked as another plasma bolt passed close enough to scrape the shields. Sparks flew from a console near the back of the bridge. But no one panicked. They had a mission now, a reason to fight that went beyond revenge. In the shuttle bay, Sergeant Kevin Cole gathered his team with the efficiency of a man who had done this 100 times before. He was tall and muscular, with dark skin and a scar running down his left cheek from a battle he never talked about. His team consisted of 5 Marines and 1 medic, Corporal Heather Nash. She was small but fierce, with red hair tied in a tight bun, and medical supplies strapped to every available surface of her body. "Listen up," Cole said as they boarded the dropship. "We have survivors on the asteroid below. We do not know how many or what condition they are in. Our job is to get them out while the Relentless keeps those cruisers busy. Move fast, stay sharp, and nobody gets left behind. Understood?" "Understood, Sergeant," the team replied in unison. The dropship launched from the Relentless like a bullet from a gun. Above them, the warship continued its impossible dance between plasma bolts, drawing the attention of all 3 cruisers, while the small craft slipped toward the asteroid unnoticed. The surface of the asteroid was gray and lifeless, covered in dust and small craters from millions of years of impacts. Cole led his team toward a rocky formation where the life signs were strongest. What they found made even the hardened Marines stop and stare. Someone had carved a shelter into the rock using nothing but escape pod emergency tools. The entrance was small, barely big enough for a person to crawl through, but inside it opened into a larger chamber where 73 humans huddled together in the darkness. They were thin and weak, their faces hollow from lack of food and water. When they saw the Marine uniforms, many of them started to cry. A woman pushed her way to the front of the group. Her name was Laura Bennett, and she had been the first officer of the Horizon. Her uniform was torn and stained, and there was a bandage wrapped around her head that had turned brown with dried blood. But her eyes were still sharp, still filled with the fire of someone who had refused to give up. "Thank God," she whispered when she saw Cole. "We thought no one was coming. We thought we were going to die here." Cole knelt beside her and put a hand on her shoulder. "You are safe now, ma'am. We are going to get you out of here. But I need to know what happened. Can you tell me?" "Workinstanded," Laura nodded slowly. The memories were painful, but she knew they were important. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "We were 2 days from the colony when they appeared. 3 Coalition cruisers came out of nowhere. They did not hail us or demand surrender. They just started shooting. Captain Morrison tried to negotiate, tried to tell them we were civilians, but they would not listen." She paused and wiped tears from her cheeks. Corporal Nash handed her a water bottle, which she drank from gratefully before continuing. "The first shots hit our engines. We could not run. Then they targeted the family quarters. The screams on the communication system were, I will never forget them. Children crying for their parents. Parents trying to protect their babies. They killed them all without hesitation. Cole felt rage building in his chest, but he kept his voice gentle. How did you survive? Captain Morrison ordered everyone to the escape pods. He stayed behind to give us time. The last thing I heard before my pod launched was his voice telling us to run and never stop running. Most of the pods were destroyed before they got away. Only 3 made it to this asteroid. 73 of us out of 2,000. The Marines looked at each other. 73 survivors out of 2,000 souls. Families wiped out in minutes. Children murdered for no reason except hate and cruelty. Sergeant Cole to Relentless. Cole spoke into his communicator. We have 73 survivors. Repeat. 73 survivors. They have confirmed the attack was unprovoked. The coalition targeted civilian quarters deliberately. They wanted no witnesses. On the bridge of the Relentless, Captain Carter received the message in silence. His face showed no emotion, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair so hard that his knuckles turned white. Around him, the crew heard the report. Some closed their eyes. Others clenched their fists. All of them felt the same thing. Katie, Carter said quietly, how long until the survivors are aboard? Lieutenant Commander Morgan checked her console. 15 minutes, Captain. The dropship is loading now. Carter nodded. He looked at the view screen where the 3 coalition cruisers continued their attack. Vornash was still confident. Still certain that his superior numbers would win the day. He had no idea what was coming. Derek, Carter said to his weapons officer, prepare all weapons systems. The moment those survivors are aboard, we end this. Derek Grant smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a wolf who had finally been given permission to hunt. With pleasure, Captain. Above the asteroid, the Relentless continued to dodge and weave, buying time for the rescue team below. But even as it danced between plasma bolts, it was preparing for something much more deadly. The hunters were about to become the prey, and they did not even know it. The dropship rose from the asteroid surface and raced toward the Relentless with 73 precious souls aboard. Inside, Corporal Heather Nash moved between the survivors, checking their vital signs and offering comfort where she could. Many of them were in shock, their minds still trapped in the nightmare of the attack. Others stared at the walls with empty eyes, unable to process that they were finally safe. Laura Bennett sat near the front of the craft and watched the Marines work. These young men and women had crossed the stars to find them. They had flown into a battle zone without hesitation, without knowing if they would survive. This was what humanity was capable of when it cared about its own. Approaching the Relentless now, the pilot announced. Docking in 30 seconds. On the bridge of the warship, Captain Daniel Carter watched the dropship approach on his view screen. The 3 coalition cruisers had stopped firing temporarily to reposition themselves for a final assault. Vornash probably thought the human ship was weakening, that all the dodging had exhausted its crew and drained its power. He was wrong. Dropship is aboard, Samantha Price reported. All survivors secure in medical bay. Carter stood from his chair. He felt a strange calm settle over him, the kind of peace that came before violence. Everything was clear now. The mission was simple. These cruisers had murdered 2,000 innocent people. They had targeted children. They had laughed about it. Now they would learn why their ancestors had been right to fear humanity. All hands, Carter spoke into the communication system. This is the captain. The survivors are aboard. They have told us what happened here. These coalition ships attacked without warning and killed our people without mercy. They thought no one would know. They thought no one would come. They were wrong. He paused and looked around the bridge at his crew. Every face showed the same determination. Every eye burned with the same fire. Today we show them what happens when you hurt our family. Today we remind the galaxy why they learn to run when a human warship appears. Battle stations. No mercy. Derek Grant brought the weapon systems online with a single command. The railguns hummed with power, their magnetic coils charged to maximum. The missile bays opened, revealing rows of warheads designed to penetrate the strongest shields. The point defense cannons rotated into position, ready to destroy any incoming fire before it could touch the hull. "All weapons ready, Captain," Grant reported. His voice was steady, but there was eagerness in it. He had seen the survivors brought aboard. He had seen the children among them, traumatized and broken. He wanted this fight. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb pushed the engines beyond their normal limits. The Relentless roared with power, as energy flowed through every system like blood through veins. This ship was his creation, his masterpiece, and it would not fail today. Vornash appeared on the view screen again. His confidence had grown during the battle because the human ship had not returned fire once. In his mind, this proved they were cowards who only knew how to run. "Human vessel, your evasion has been impressive, but it ends now. Surrender, and we might spare your lives. Resist, and you will be destroyed like the others." Carter looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. "You asked me earlier if I was insane to threaten you with one ship against 3. Let me answer your question." The Relentless moved. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The human warship did not simply attack, it became something else entirely. Something that defied every rule of space combat the Coalition had ever known. The first cruiser never saw the railgun rounds coming. The magnetic accelerators launched projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. Too fast for shields to adjust, and too powerful to stop. The shots punched through the cruiser's hull like needles through fabric, severing power conduits and destroying weapon systems. The ship went dark in seconds, drifting helplessly in space. The second cruiser tried to run. Its captain, smarter than Vornash, recognized death when he saw it, and ordered full retreat. But the Relentless was faster. Missiles streaked through space and detonated against the cruiser's engines with surgical precision. The ship spun out of control, its ability to escape completely destroyed. Vornash watched his fleet crumble in disbelief. This was impossible. One ship could not do this. One ship could not defeat 3 in a matter of minutes. He screamed orders at his crew, demanded they fire everything they had at the human vessel. Plasma bolts and missiles launched in a desperate barrage. The Relentless spun through the attack like a dancer through raindrops. Point defense cannons destroyed missiles before they got close. The shields absorbed plasma impacts without faltering, and all the while, the ship continued its assault. Derek Grant targeted Vornash's flagship with cold precision. He aimed not to destroy but to disable, because Captain Carter wanted prisoners. The railgun rounds hit the command section, shattering weapons arrays and crippling communication systems. A final shot struck the engine core, shutting down all power except life support. The battle lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds. When it ended, 3 Coalition cruisers drifted in space, broken and helpless. Not one of them was destroyed, but every single one was utterly defeated. Light years away, High Commander Zekthar watched the sensor feed with horror. He had seen this before in the war, had watched human ships tear through Coalition fleets like monsters through children, but that was decades ago, and he had hoped, had prayed, that things would be different now. They were not different. They were worse. The humans had grown stronger. On the bridge of the Relentless, Lieutenant Commander Katie Morgan surveyed the battlefield with professional satisfaction. "All 3 cruisers disabled, Captain. No casualties on our side. The enemy ships have approximately 3,000 crew members still alive." Carter nodded. "Good. I want them alive. They will face justice for what they did. Contact their ships and inform them that they are now prisoners of the human fleet. Any resistance will be met with extreme force." The message was sent, and one by one, the cruisers acknowledged surrender. On his crippled flagship, Vornash sat in darkness and tried to understand how everything had gone so wrong. He had been so certain of victory. He had been so sure that one ship could not matter. Now he understood what his ancestors had tried to tell him. Humans were not like other species. They did not fight according to the rules. They did not calculate odds and retreat when outnumbered. They fought like cornered animals, like desperate survivors, like a species that had clawed its way to the stars through blood and pain and refused to ever be prey again. And when you hurt their family, they came for you. No matter how far you ran, no matter how many ships you had, they came, and they did not stop until justice was done. The Relentless jumped out of faster-than-light travel near the heart of the coalition. Behind it came 3 crippled cruisers, dragged through space by towing cables like fish on a line. The sight that greeted Captain Daniel Carter was impressive by any standard. 40 warships had assembled around Coalition Central Command, the largest space station in the known galaxy. They formed a defensive wall between the human vessel and the station, their weapons charged and ready. But they did not fire. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Katie Morgan studied the tactical display with raised eyebrows. 40 ships, Captain. That is nearly their entire home fleet. They brought everything they have. Carter smiled slightly. And not one of them wants to be the first to shoot. They know what happened to Vornash. They know what we can do. He was right. News of the battle had spread across the coalition like wildfire. 1 human ship had disabled 3 cruisers in under 5 minutes. 1 ship had danced through a storm of plasma fire without taking a single serious hit. The commanders of those 40 warships had read the reports and watched the sensor recordings and decided that victory was not worth the price they would pay. Open a channel to the station, Carter ordered. Tell them I request an audience with the High Council. I have evidence of war crimes committed by coalition officers, and I have prisoners who will testify. They can grant my request peacefully, or I can deliver my message another way. The channel was opened, and the message was sent. For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then, the defense fleet slowly parted, creating a corridor to the station's docking bays. Carter nodded with satisfaction. Bring us in, and have Dr. Brooks prepare all evidence files. We are going to need them. Then, the council chamber was enormous, a circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from every major species in the coalition filled those seats, their alien faces showing various mixtures of fear, anger, and curiosity. At the highest tier sat the High Council itself, 5 individuals who held ultimate authority over coalition affairs. Captain Carter walked to the central platform alone. He had left his weapons on the ship, but he did not need them. His uniform was crisp and clean, his posture straight and confident. He looked at the assembled aliens with the calm certainty of a man who knew he held all the cards. High Commander Zekthar sat in the observer section, watching with ancient eyes. He had traveled here as fast as his ship could carry him, hoping to prevent disaster. But looking at the human captain now, he suspected it was already too late. You requested this audience, the lead counselor said. She was a Velkorian like Zekthar, her gray skin marked with the symbols of high office. Speak your piece, human, but know that your presence here with our ships in tow is an act of aggression that will not be forgotten. Carter inclined his head respectfully. With respect, Counselor, aggression is what your officers committed when they attacked a civilian vessel without warning. Aggression is what happened when they targeted family quarters and murdered children. Aggression is what I am here to address, not commit. He gestured, and the chamber's holographic systems activated. Images appeared in the air above the platform. The debris field where the horizon had died. The bodies floating in space. The targeting data showing how the coalition cruisers had deliberately aimed for civilian sections. 3 weeks ago, the colony ship Horizon departed Earth with 2,000 civilians, Carter continued. Men, women, and children, seeking a new life in the outer territories. They posed no threat to anyone. They carried no weapons. They were farmers and teachers and doctors who wanted nothing more than to build homes on a distant world. He changed the display to show the survivors in the medical bay. Their hollow faces and empty eyes spoke more powerfully than any words. 73 survived. They escaped in pods while your ships continued to fire on the helpless vessel. They hid on an asteroid for 3 weeks, expecting death, praying that someone would come. I found them. I found them, and I found the ships responsible, and I brought them here for justice. The chamber erupted in noise. Some counselors demanded that Carter be arrested for his attack on coalition vessels. Others called for an investigation into his claims. A few sat in silence, their faces troubled by what they saw. Carter waited for the chaos to subside before speaking again. I have also brought Commander Vornash, who led the attack. Under interrogation, he admitted that the assault was ordered by coalition border commanders who wanted to send a message to human colonists. They wanted us to know that expansion would not be tolerated. They wanted us afraid. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many counselors as he could. We are not afraid. The silence that followed was absolute. Carter let it stretch before continuing. Humanity came to the stars seeking friendship. We wanted to learn from your civilizations, to share our knowledge and grow together. We built trade routes and signed treaties, and believed that peace was possible. But we never forgot what we are. We never forgot the wars we fought among ourselves before we reached space. We never forgot the lessons those wars taught us. He stepped forward, and several guards in the chamber tensed. Here is what we learned. Kindness is not weakness. Mercy is not surrender. But when you strike at our families, when you murder our children, when you mistake our desire for peace as permission to harm us, we remember what we truly are. We are the species that conquered a planet that tried to kill us every day. We are the survivors of 100,000 years of struggle, and we do not forget. The lead counselor leaned forward. What do you want, Captain? Justice, Carter replied simply. The officers responsible will be tried and punished. Reparations will be paid to the families of those who died, and the coalition will sign a new treaty recognizing human territorial boundaries as inviolable. Do this, and we return to peace. Refuse, and the next ship that comes will not be alone. The council deliberated for hours while Carter waited on his ship. In the end, they had no choice. The evidence was undeniable. And the alternative was war with a species that had just proven it could defeat superior numbers with a single vessel. The treaty was signed. The officers were handed over for trial. Credits were transferred to grieving families who would never see their loved ones again. As the Relentless prepared to leave Coalition space, Lieutenant Commander Katie Morgan stood beside her captain on the bridge. Do you think this will really change anything? She asked quietly. Carter watched the stars on the view screen. I do not know. Maybe they will try again in a year, or a decade, or a century. Maybe some other species will decide that humans are weak because we prefer peace. If they do, we will be there to remind them. He turned to face his crew, the men and women who had crossed the stars to save 73 lives. But today we saved who we could. Today, we showed the galaxy that humanity does not abandon its own. And today, somewhere out there, 1,000 species are reconsidering whether attacking us is worth the cost. He smiled, and for the first time since they had found the debris field, it reached his eyes. Set a course for home. Our people are waiting. The Relentless jumped to faster than light speed and vanished into the stars, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned an old lesson again. When you see a human warship approaching, you have two choices. You can make peace and live in friendship, or you can make your last stand and pray that death comes quickly. The humans were always watching, and they never forgot.
Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling through space for 3 months, exploring new worlds and looking for signs of alien life. So far, they had found nothing but empty planets and dead rocks floating in the darkness. Captain, we're getting something strange on the long-range sensors, said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Brooks from her station. She was the ship's communications officer, a smart woman who could speak 12 different languages. It looks like a message being sent across the entire galaxy. Jake walked over to her station. What kind of message? I'm not sure yet. It's using a signal pattern I've never seen before. Give me a few minutes to figure it out. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jake looked around at his crew. There were only 43 people aboard the Defiant, all of them volunteers who had left Earth to explore the unknown. They had been traveling for 2 years, visiting empty worlds and mapping new star systems. This was the first time they had found any sign that other intelligent life existed in the galaxy. Got it, Lisa said suddenly. "The signal is coming from a point about 50 light years away. It's definitely artificial, and it's being broadcast on every frequency at once. Someone really wants this message to be heard. Can you translate it?" "Working on it now. The computer is trying to match the patterns to known languages." Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "This is going to take a while. The signal is incredibly complex." Dr. Kevin Hayes, the ship's science officer, looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures coming from the same location as the signal. Whatever is sending this message has technology far beyond anything we've ever seen." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now it seemed they had their answer, and it might not be good news. "How long until you can translate the message, Lisa?" "Maybe an hour, maybe 2. The computer is learning the language patterns, but it's unlike anything in our database." Jake sat down in his captain's chair. "All hands, this is the captain. We have detected what appears to be an alien transmission. All senior officers report to the bridge immediately." Within minutes, the bridge was crowded with the Defiant's key personnel. Chief Engineer Bob Taylor stood next to Security Chief Maria Santos. Medical Officer Dr. Julie Clark looked worried, while Navigator Tom Wilson checked his instruments twice to make sure they were far enough away from the signal source. "Captain," Lisa called out, "I think I've got something. The computer has managed to translate part of the message. You're not going to like this." She pressed a button and alien voices filled the bridge. The computer's translation system turned their words into English, but the mechanical voice could not hide the cold arrogance in the original message. "People of the galaxy, we are the Zephyrian Empire. We are the masters of war. We have conquered 12 star systems and destroyed anyone who opposed us. We have weapons that can crack planets in half. We have ships that can travel faster than light itself. No species in the galaxy can match our power." The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at the speakers as the message continued. "We offer you one choice. Submit to our rule or be destroyed. Those who surrender will become our slaves. Those who resist will become dust. We have defeated the Corellian Republic. We have crushed the Nexus Federation. We have burned the worlds of the Stellar Alliance. No one can stand against us." Jake's hands gripped the arms of his chair. This was exactly what humanity had feared might happen when they started exploring space. They had found aliens, and these aliens were conquerors. "There's more, Captain," Lisa said quietly. The alien voice continued. "We know there are still free worlds in the galaxy. We know you are listening. We are coming for you. In 1 year, our fleets will begin the final conquest. Every world, every system, every species will bow before the Zephyrian Empire. We are the ultimate warriors. We are the masters of war. Resistance is impossible." The message ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Dr. Hayes was the first to speak. "Captain, based on the energy readings, they're telling the truth about their technology. These aliens have power sources that make our best reactors look like campfires." "How many ships do you think they have?" asked Maria Santos. "Hard to say, but the signal suggests a massive fleet, hundreds of ships, maybe thousands." Jake stood up and walked to the main window again. Somewhere out there, an alien empire was preparing to conquer the galaxy, and humanity didn't even know they existed. "Lisa, can you trace the signal back to its source?" "Already working on it, Captain. The signal originated from a system about 47 light years from here. But Captain, there's something else. The message wasn't just sent to empty space. It was directed at specific points in the galaxy. They know where the inhabited worlds are. Do they know about Earth?" Lisa checked her readings. "I don't think so, not yet. But if they're planning to conquer the entire galaxy, they'll find us eventually." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Tom, set course for Earth. Maximum speed." "Sir, that will take us 8 months even at full speed." "Then we better get started. Lisa, prepare a full report on everything we've learned. Include the complete alien message and all sensor data." "Captain," Dr. Clark said quietly, "are we really going to war with these aliens?" Jake looked at his crew. They were explorers, not soldiers, but they were the only humans who knew about the threat coming toward Earth. We're going to warn our people. What happens after that isn't up to us. The USS Defiant turned toward home, carrying news that would change humanity forever. Behind them, somewhere in the darkness of space, the Zephyrian Empire prepared for their final conquest. They believed they were the masters of war. They had never met humans before. 6 months after the USS Defiant reached Earth with their warning, the Zephyrian fleet appeared at the edge of human space. They came like a storm of metal and fire, 300 ships moving together in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed, silver in the light of distant stars, and their weapons bristled like the spines of some deadly creature. Colonel Amy Fisher stood on the command deck of Orbital Station Alpha, watching the alien fleet through her telescope. New Dakota was a farming colony with only 50,000 people. They grew corn and wheat on the planet below, shipping food back to Earth and the other human worlds. The station was small, with just 20 Marines and a handful of scientists. It was never meant to fight a war. "Colonel, they're sending us a message," said Sergeant Pete Jackson from the communications console. "Put it on the main screen." The face that appeared was like nothing Amy had ever seen. The alien had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "Humans of New Dakota, I am Admiral Kextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have come to claim this world for our empire. You have seen what we did to the Carillion worlds. You know we destroyed the Nexus Federation. We offer you the same choice we offered them. Surrender now and your people will live as our slaves. Resist, and we will turn your world into ash." Amy looked at her small crew. They were farmers and scientists, not soldiers. But they were human, and humans didn't give up easily. "This is Colonel Amy Fisher, commander of New Dakota Colony. We need time to consider your terms." The alien laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Very well. You have 72 hours. After that, we attack." The screen went dark. Amy turned to her people. "You heard them. We have 3 days." "Colonel," said Dr. Paul Green, the station's scientist, "we can't fight them. Look at those ships. They could destroy us in minutes." Amy nodded. "You're right. We can't fight them, but maybe someone else can." She turned to Sergeant Jackson. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the aliens are here. Tell them we need help." "Yes, ma'am. How long should I say we can hold out?" "Tell them we'll buy them as much time as we can." Far from New Dakota, Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution. The ship was huge, over 2 miles long and bristling with weapons. It was the most powerful warship humanity had ever built, designed using lessons learned from 1,000 years of human warfare. "Admiral, we just received Colonel Fisher's message," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "The aliens have reached New Dakota." Ben looked at the star map on his screen. New Dakota was 12 days away at maximum speed. "How long do we have?" The aliens gave them 72 hours to surrender. "That's not enough time." Captain Rick Stone, Ben's second in command, stepped forward. "Sir, even if we could get there in time, it's 1 ship against 300. Ben smiled grimly. "Rick, those aliens think they know about war. They've conquered species that fight with honor and follow rules. They've never fought humans before." The USS Retribution began moving toward New Dakota, its massive engines pushing it through space faster than any ship had ever traveled before. Back on New Dakota, Amy Fisher was not sitting idle. She had sent evacuation ships to carry women and children to safety, but many colonists refused to leave. They had built homes on this world, raised families, planted crops. They would not abandon everything without a fight. "Colonel, the aliens are moving closer to the planet," reported Corporal Lisa Webb from the sensor station. "They're scanning our defenses." Amy looked at her handful of weapons. The orbital station had 2 missile launchers and some defensive guns. Against 300 alien warships, it was like throwing rocks at a mountain. "Ma'am, we're getting another transmission," said Sergeant Jackson. This time, Admiral Kextar looked amused. "Humans, we have studied your little station. Your weapons are pathetic. Your defenses are weak. Why do you delay the inevitable?" Amy stared back at the alien commander. Because we're human. We don't quit. Your species interests me, Kextar said. Most races beg for mercy by now. They offer us tribute, promise to serve us faithfully. You offer nothing. That's right, we offer nothing because we owe you nothing. Kextar's four eyes narrowed. When your 72 hours are over, human, I will show you what happens to species that refuse our generosity. Amy cut the transmission. Around her, the station's crew worked to prepare what defenses they could. They moved ammunition, checked weapon systems, and tried not to think about the massive fleet surrounding them. On the planet below, the colonists were also preparing. Farmer Jack Miller loaded his hunting rifle and kissed his wife goodbye. Teacher Mary Stone helped evacuate the school children, while her husband prepared the emergency shelters. Store owner Dan Clark handed out supplies to anyone who needed them. They were not soldiers. They were ordinary people facing an enemy beyond their imagination. But they were human, and they would not surrender. As the 72 hours ticked away, Amy Fisher stood at her post and watched the alien fleet. Somewhere in space, she knew, the USS Retribution was racing toward them. She didn't know if it would arrive in time. She didn't know if one human ship could defeat 300 alien vessels. But she knew one thing for certain. The aliens called themselves Masters of War. They were about to learn what that really meant. The countdown continued. In 18 hours, the battle for New Dakota would begin, and the galaxy would discover whether humanity deserved to survive. The 72 hours ended at exactly noon, New Dakota time. Colonel Amy Fisher stood on her command deck, watching the Zephyrian fleet move into attack formation. The alien ships spread out like a net, surrounding the small human colony. "Colonel, incoming transmission," said Sergeant Pete Jackson. Admiral Kextar appeared on the screen, his four eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Your time is over, human. What is your answer?" Amy looked at her crew, then back at the alien commander. "Our answer is no. We will not surrender." Kextar's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "Then you will die. All of you. The alien fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams shot through space, lighting up the darkness like deadly fireworks. The first shots hit Orbital Station Alpha's shields, making the entire structure shake like a leaf in a storm. "Shields down to 60%, shouted Corporal Lisa Webb. "Return fire," Amy ordered. The station's two missile launchers shot their small weapons at the nearest alien ship. The missiles exploded against the alien shields, causing barely any damage. It was like throwing pebbles at a tank. "Colonel, we can't hurt them," said Dr. Paul Green. "Their shields are too strong." Amy grabbed the communications microphone. "All units on the planet, this is Station Alpha. We are under attack. Begin defensive operations immediately." Down on New Dakota's surface, the colonists were ready. They had spent 3 days preparing for this moment. But they were not preparing to fight like soldiers. They were preparing to fight like humans. Farmer. Jack Miller crouched in his cornfield holding his hunting rifle. When the first alien landing craft came down, he did not charge at it with guns blazing. Instead, he waited. He waited until the aliens stepped out of their ship, confident and proud. Then he shot their leader and disappeared back into the tall corn. The Zephyrians were confused. Where other species had met them with organized armies and formal battle lines, the humans seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Teacher Mary Stone had turned her school into a trap. When alien soldiers entered the building looking for humans to capture, they found empty classrooms filled with hidden explosives. The blast destroyed an entire squad of Zephyrian warriors. In the town, store owner Dan Clark had poisoned the water supply that the aliens tried to use for their troops. Within hours, dozens of alien soldiers were sick and unable to fight. Marine Sergeant Tony Rodriguez led the most dangerous mission of all. With just 5 other Marines, he snuck through the alien lines using sewers and drainage tunnels. His target was not the enemy soldiers but their command post. "Remember," Tony whispered to his men as they crawled through a storm drain. "We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to hurt them so bad they remember it." The Marines reached the alien command center and planted explosives around the building. When the bombs went off, They killed 3 alien commanders and destroyed their communication equipment. The Zephyrians had never faced anything like this. In all their previous conquests, enemy forces had fought them directly, ship to ship and soldier to soldier. The humans fought like ghosts, striking from shadows and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Admiral Kextar watched the battle from his flagship, growing more frustrated by the hour. "How many humans are on that planet?" he demanded. "Scans show approximately 50,000, Admiral," replied his science officer. "Then why does it feel like we are fighting 500,000? The answer was simple, though Kextar did not understand it yet. Every human on New Dakota was a fighter. The farmers knew their land better than any invader could. The teachers knew how to turn innocent buildings into deadly traps. The shopkeepers knew how to make poison from household chemicals. Engineer. Kate Sullivan had worked for 3 days to turn the colony's power plant into a weapon. When alien forces tried to capture the facility, she overloaded the reactor. The explosion destroyed an entire city block and took out 200 alien soldiers. Pastor John Miller, who had never held a weapon in his life, organized the children and elderly into spy networks. They watched alien movements and reported, back using hidden radios. When the aliens tried to capture them, they found only empty buildings and more traps. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Zephyrians had superior weapons, better armor, and overwhelming numbers, but they were fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of war. By evening, Admiral Kextar had lost over 1,000 soldiers and still had not captured a single strategic location. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a battlefield. Every human was a potential threat. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we have secured the spaceport and the government building." "Excellent. How many prisoners?" "None, sir. The buildings were empty when we took them." Kextar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Empty? Where are the humans?" "We don't know, sir. They seem to have vanished." The humans had not vanished. They had simply moved to new positions, ready to continue the fight. Amy Fisher coordinated from a hidden bunker as her orbital station burned above them. The colonists had lost their homes, but they had not lost their will to fight. As night fell on New Dakota, the Zephyrians controlled the empty buildings and silent streets. But they did not control the planet. In the darkness, human voices whispered over hidden radios planning the next day's attacks. The aliens called themselves Masters of War, but they had never fought a species that treated war not as a game with rules but as a fight for survival with no limits. The battle was far from over. 3 days had passed since the fighting began on New Dakota. Admiral Kextar stood in his command room, staring at the reports flowing in from the planet below. His mighty fleet had conquered 12 star systems without breaking a sweat. Now, they were struggling against farmers and shopkeepers on a single world. "Admiral, we have lost 1,500 soldiers," reported his tactical officer. "The humans continue to attack our supply lines and command posts." Kextar's 4 eyes burned with anger. 1,500? Against primitives with simple weapons? "Sir, they do not fight like any species we have encountered before. They use tricks and traps. They poison our water and blow up our equipment. When we chase them, they disappear. Then we will destroy their cities from orbit. Burn everything. Sir, we already tried that. They hide underground. Our bombardment only destroys empty buildings." Kextar was about to order another attack when his science officer called out urgently, "Admiral, we have a contact on long-range sensors. A single ship approaching from deep space." "One ship?" Kextar laughed. "What kind of ship?" "Unknown design, sir. It's large. Very large." On the main screen, a dot appeared among the stars. As it grew closer, the Zephyrians could see it was a warship unlike anything they had ever encountered. The USS Retribution was a monster of metal and weapons built for one purpose only: destroying enemies. "How big is that thing?" asked the tactical officer. 2.3 kilometers long, sir. Mass reading shows it weighs more than 50 of our heavy cruisers." Kextar studied the approaching ship. 1 vessel against 300. These humans must be insane. The alien fleet moved into position, surrounding the human battleship. Kextar opened a communication channel. expecting to receive the usual pleas for mercy that always came from outmatched enemies. Instead, he heard a calm, cold voice that made his blood run chill. "This is Captain Rick Stone of the USS Retribution. You have attacked human civilians. You have 72 hours to withdraw from this system, or we will destroy your entire fleet." Kextar could not believe what he was hearing. "Human Captain, you are surrounded by 300 warships. Your single vessel cannot possibly defeat us all. Watch us." The transmission ended. Kextar stared at the screen in amazement. Every other species had begged for mercy at this point. They had offered tribute, promised to serve the Zephyrian Empire, anything to avoid destruction. These humans offered nothing but defiance. "Admiral, what are your orders?" asked his second-in-command. "Destroy them. Use half the fleet. Make it. Quick." 150 Zephyrian warships moved toward the USS Retribution. They approached in perfect formation, as they had done countless times before. This was how civilized species fought wars, with honor, strategy, and predictable tactics. Captain Rick Stone watched them come. On his bridge, the crew worked quietly at their stations. These were not explorers or scientists like the crew of the Defiant. These were soldiers who had trained their entire lives for moments like this. "Captain, enemy ships are moving into attack formation," reported his tactical officer, Commander Grace Palmer. "Let them get close. Weapons Chief, are our surprises ready?" Lieutenant Colonel Matt Johnson smiled grimly. "All systems ready, sir. The aliens are about to learn why humans don't fight fair." When the Zephyrian ships reached what they thought was firing range, Rick gave his first order. "Deploy the mines." Hundreds of small objects shot out from the Retribution's hull, moving so fast they were almost invisible. The Zephyrians had no time to react before the mines exploded around their ships. But these were not ordinary explosives. They were nuclear mines, each one more powerful than the largest bombs the aliens had ever seen. 20 Zephyrian ships disappeared in balls of nuclear fire. The others found their shields failing, and their hull armor cracking from the intense radiation. "What kind of weapons are these?" Kextar demanded over the communication channel. Rick's voice was calm and cold. "The kind we use to kill our enemies." The Retribution began moving forward, not in the stately advance that marked civilized warfare, but in a wild, unpredictable pattern that made it impossible to target. Its weapons fired continuously, not at the